This creative world is art. Today's guest is a veteran storyteller and artist with credits at Cartoon Network, Warner Brothers, Disney, Marvel Entertainment, DC Comics, and Nickelodeon, just to name a few. Among other roles, he was a storyboard artist on the Oscar-nominated feature Jimmy Neutron, Boy Genius. Directed the original commercial animations for the movie and is also on the Emmy-nominated Ozzie Drix. He's also worked in live-action shows like Con Man, Las Vegas, Ally McBeal, and the U.S. of Terra. In addition, in comics, he's drawn everything from Spawn to Star Wars to Deadpool to Superman. He's also worked in the game industry on titles such as God of War and Neopets. Truly amazing. Please welcome Shannon Denton. Hello, Shannon. Thanks for joining us today. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much.
First of all, you've worked with animation. I had to write down everything because you got so many big credits. So it's amazing. So you've worked with animation on some of the biggest franchises, including X-Men, Batman, Justice League, Teen Titans, Spider-Man, just to name a few, for video game companies like Sony, Blizzard, and Riot Games. In addition to all of that, you're also doing comic work for Marvel, DC, Dark Horse, and Image. It's a lot of credits, that's amazing. But how did you actually in the first place get into this industry?
Largely through comics. Comics was sort of the gateway that led me into everything else. I moved out to Los Angeles at the beginning of Image Comics, when Image Comics got started. And some friends of mine and I realized that the X-Men cartoon was made at Fox, also in Los Angeles. And we convinced some people to hire us, and that was sort of my entry point into the world of television. And then from there, I just bugged as many people as possible, tried to be friendly and charming while also being professional. It was a slightly different way about going about it than a lot of young people now, in that it was pre-internet. So it was a little bit more social, a little bit more interactive, finding out who did what and going and asking them if you could have a moment of their time.
Awesome. So what was you think the crucial breakthrough moment of your career and then everything took off to your current success?
I think crucial is for me, I ran track in college. I was a pole vaulter, and I think athletes and a lot of my art students always hate when I bring up sports analogies, but you have to perform in front of a large crowd and fail miserably and then smile and do it again. There's very few athletes that win every time. And I think that is really sort of the mental thing that I was able to kind of apply to breaking into the business, because every time you finish a job, you're now back in competition with everybody in the world that wants to do what you do, regardless of how many years you've been doing it. So you have to kind of always give it your best and know that tomorrow you're gonna have to do the same thing, even if today didn't go well.
Right. So you're also co-founder of the online website Comic Works, which has previously partnered with AOL and comics legend Stan Lee. Wow. Comic Works has also launched a new line of illustrated children's action books under the Action Place imprint. So what's the concept and the ideas behind it, and also what draws you to those projects?
I think largely I was making a lot of, I work largely in daytime kids animation, and I was coming home and then the stuff I was making was stuff for me because I was doing so many kids projects during the day. So I was making, definitely more mature content, but that I realized my kids couldn't read a lot of the content that I was making. So I decided I needed to focus on making a separate line where I could do something with them. And I've always been an avid reader, whether it was comics or the Sunday newspaper strip or, novels, encyclopedias, whatever I could get my hands on. I like to learn, I like to be entertained, regardless of what format. Format wasn't as important to me. So we decided to start up the book line as a way to just tell more stories.
Right, and you've been so busy and successful, and you've also worked in so many different fields. Could you explain your process or approach to work and why you have chosen such a wide array or range of work?
I think largely because I wasn't smart enough to know these were all different jobs when I moved to Los Angeles. I joke because I know that my resume has been brought up multiple times by different HR people because it's not very linear. And a lot of people go get a career doing one thing and then they stay doing that thing and they move on to the next thing. And I think I just really like the challenge of trying to me, it's all storytelling. And if I can convince somebody to pay me to learn how to do something, and I'm winning since most people pay to go learn. This has just sort of been my driving motivation on a lot of things and working on projects that excite me with people that I want to work with. You know, so there have been times I've been offered really great projects that I knew the people weren't really great people. And I'll turn those down, and I'd rather go find a way to make something that is okay and make it much better with some really good people than to work on something really great and be miserable with people around me. So that's I think that's for the young people in the audience a big thing to keep in mind. You know, you get one shot at this, as far as we know, at life. So you know, if you can find a way to enjoy every day and push yourself at the same time, it makes it a much more enjoyable ride.
Right. So you've currently worked on a TV series, Crossing Swords, and The Simpsons, right? So is there any ongoing or future project you're currently working on that you can share with us?
Yeah, I can't say what, but I've been writing a lot of video game cinematics for Riot Games. And then last year, at the end of the season of Crossing Swords, I was wrapping up on that, and then Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead animated series, and started at Monster Forge Productions, which is a film and TV development company with my longtime collaborator and friend, Steve Niles. Steve's famous for creating 30 Days of Night. He had the show October Faction on Netflix. So it was going back to good people. It was another way to be able to do stuff with my friends more often and have actually an outlet for a lot of the creative stuff we want to do. And I've been doing it long enough to know the kinds of projects and the kinds of things I like, and we just leaned into it.
Awesome. So you also taught at LA-based Associates in Arts, as well as lectured at Cal Arts Art Center College of Design, the Art Institute, and Collins College. So literally you've been doing a lot of different kinds of stuff, but what do you specifically like about teaching?
I really enjoy making the path easier on somebody else. I think for those of us that made mistakes over and over again, and then you learn like, oh, that was really a bad way to do it, then you should have done it like this. If I can pass along some of those shortcuts to somebody and they have a much better experience, that's very rewarding. It's thrilled to be able to do that, because when I moved out, going back to the whole lack of the internet, when I first moved to Los Angeles, you just kind of blindly bumped into people and you know, hoped that they were going to have the knowledge you needed to get to the next stage of what you wanted to do. You couldn't go Google things.
Right.
You had to go find people.
Right. You actually partially gave some like a message to the younger generation in the previous question, but is there anything else you want to add to specifically to the younger generation for trying to get into the field, like advice, messages to the?
Oh, absolutely. I think the number one thing is kindness. Goes a very long way. I always joke that LA is my dad was a military pilot and we lived all over the United States. LA is the smallest town I've ever lived in, because you know really quickly who are the good people to work with and who are not. It's a lot like sports again, in that you trade teams. You know, fans may be rooting for this team or that team, and that's their team their whole life. We get traded from Disney to Nickelodeon to Cartoon Network, and so you sometimes will leave people and you won't see them for 3 or 4 years, and then you'll come back around, and then the first thing you do is catch up and find out like, who drove you nuts over the last 3 years? Who inspired you? Who was great? And by being a kind, generous person who is good at their craft, that will endear you to people you don't even know you haven't met yet. And it's a great way to go into the business. And it's ask questions, find people that are, if people are upset you're asking questions, they're probably not people you should be working with. You know, I think all of us that it's a very fast-paced business, and we're all very busy and we want to get stuff done. But if somebody's young and you're not, your supervisor or your director, you know, showrunner isn't taking the time to appreciate that nobody's given you any of this information, that's on them, not you. So be willing to walk away from bad situations and find the people that will support you and take the time.
Right. Such a great advice. Thank you very much. What do you think is necessary to succeed internationally?
That's an ever-changing, not to get into all the world events right now, but things change and you have to change with the times. And I think this goes to just creatively, professionally, internationally. I think it's kind of all the same thing. If you get stagnant or you think you're operating excellently, well, you might be operating excellently right now, but as things change and you don't change with them, you're just repeating yourself. You're not operating excellently anymore. And I think that, for me, growing up military, traveling all around, anytime you're the new kid and you're thrown into an area where everybody is not the new kid, you learn to appreciate what's different and flow with the area that you're in. And I think a lot of people haven't. I realize it's a luxury that I had that. It's been really good for my career and, like you said, from an international point of view, because I'm aware that not everybody does everything the same way. I have friends that never left like 10-mile radius of the town they're in, and they don't even know that people in the state do things differently than them, or they don't realize that they don't do things differently in the region that they're in because they've never left that area. And I don't think watching TV is quite the same as actually, getting out and seeing the world.
Right. So, the title of the show is Creative World. This is the last question. What does the word creative mean to you?
Bravery is the word.
Okay, so meaning, could you explain that word a little more?
I think bravery is when you are afraid and you go forward and do something. And I think that all of us, when we're starting off, we don't know our craft completely, but you have to do bad art, you have to do bad writing, you have to do the work to get better at doing the work. And you have to kind of throw yourself out there and go, hey, everybody, I just made this thing, where you look at it and that's very brave. I always think about the, like my grandma painting seashells down at the beach with all of her lady friends. And, they just attack the canvas. They don't care. They're just painting for themselves. So they're not trying to get a job as seashell artists down by the seashore. And I think that if you can manage to be brave, even if it's just little bits at a time, go learn something new, it'll benefit you really well for doing this as a career.
Awesome. Thanks for the encouraging and inspiring message. Today's guest was Shannon Denton, a veteran storyteller and artist. Thank you very much, Shannon. It was such a pleasure to have you on our show.
Yeah, thank you all for having me.
This episode will be available on YouTube this coming Saturday. For details, please check out our Facebook page. Next, more exciting materials to show you all.
Lisa.
Hello. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, so my question is, you seem like a really busy person and you wear so many hats. How do you manage all your time?
I have attention issues is one way that I am able to do this. I love what I do. And so for me, if I work on multiple projects, it's actually really a great way for me to keep my enthusiasm strong all the way through, because I think all of us that are pro know that you have some days where you're doing the work of 8 days worth of work in one day because everything's on fire and then you'll have 2 days in a row where you don't get much done. On those days that are the 2 days where you're not getting much done, it's great to jump to another project where all of a sudden it's exciting and new, and sometimes that'll help get you through it, and then I'll take that enthusiasm after I've back onto the other project when I'm back in the groove. That doesn't work for everybody. I always say artists and writers and creative people, you need to have that honest conversation with yourself. If you're the kind of person that needs to focus and stay in your chair and work on the thing till you think the problem through, or if you're like me, you work for 15 minutes, get up, take a break, come back, work for 15 minutes. Everybody's got a different way of doing this. So a lot of studios are set up for everybody to do it the same way, which is unfortunate. If you get far enough along into your career to where your bosses appreciate you and understand your working method, they'll work with you to let you do whatever gets them the very best work out of you. Those are the best kinds of bosses.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Wait, there's part 2. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel.